Hobby Quick Hits. Delivering that breaking hobby news directly to your earlobes. You want to know those hot drops from the card shop? We've got you covered. With your host, John Newman.
Welcome to episode 159, Hobby Quick Hits. On the tail end of battling bronchitis / really bad cold, but doing okay. Had to miss a card mentions a week ago. Very unlike me, but was unable to talk. Didn't want to cancel the whole show, so special thanks to Jeremy Lee of Sports Cards Live for jumping in the co-pilot seat with Danny and doing sort of a national wrap-up show. Catch that on all the platforms. It's been out now a little bit. So great episode and sort of historical in the sense that it's the first time a podcast has ever appeared on a Sports Card Nation platform that I did not appear in, which is kind of cool and weird at the same time. So thanks to Jeremy Lee for jumping in there. I'll be back. Jeepers, barring something else popping up, I'll be back on the next one. But today we're going to talk about, I do these Q&A episodes on this program. This is not a Q&A episode, but one of the past questions asked, what kind of thing do I like to do within the hobby that I take a lot of satisfaction from? And my answer, it's hard to give one answer, but the answer I gave was, buying a raw card or acquiring a raw card, or even opening the pack with a raw, where the cards are raw, and then sending that to get graded and getting a really good grade. There's a satisfaction in that. Full disclosure, some of, obviously a good portion of that is financially motivated, right? You just, if that gets a high grade, the value of the card goes up. Now, when I say my satisfaction in this, it's a two-way street or, a double-edged sword. Many times I do that with the purpose of not selling that card. It's going right to the PC, either raw or graded. So it's not only 100% financially motivated, but maybe it's a card that I'm not keeping and it's going to go into my show inventory, and I do that with. And, that's obviously a good thing when it gets a high grade. I don't think we have to apologize for that. So that the episode is going to kind of talk about my process. If it's something you're looking to do, if you're not already, maybe some tips on how to do it and that sort of thing. So that's what today's episode is going to be about. Not too long, but going to tackle that topic. So before we get to all that, we're going to hear from our great sponsors, Mojo Break, get the news, the release schedule, and then we'll talk about turning raw into slab.
MojoBreakShop.com is the best place to get your sealed wax products and breaks. They not only have the best selection, but the best prices. Whether it's a box or a whole case, they are your guys. They ship worldwide to your doorstep. Their reputation as one of the most trusted in the hobby goes unmatched. They are the 2021 Topps Rip Party Champion Breakers. From sports card to Pokemon cards, their selection can't be beat. They offer daily deals and pre-orders.
Hey guys, John Newman here. Mojo's prices are already great, but to save an additional 10% off anything in their store, use the code QUICKHITS. That's QUICKHITS. Check out the full service store that's open 7 days a week in Santa Clara, California, or the website at mojobreak.com. All right, you got me this week doing the new release schedule for the next 2 weeks. Let's start with August 15th. We got 2023 Sage Artistry Football Blaster. 8/16, we've got 2023 Panini Immaculate College Football. Staying on the 16th, we also have 2023 Topps Archives Signature Series Retired Player Edition Baseball. 2022-23 Topps UEFA Club Competitions Merlin Chrome Soccer. Also on the 16th, 2021-22 Upper Deck Stature Hockey. Moving to the 18th, we have 2023 Leaf Exotic Football. Also staying on the 23rd, we have 2023 Panini Chronicles Racing. 2023 Panini Luminance Football. 2023 Topps Pristine Baseball. 2022/23 Topps UEFA Women's Champions League Chrome Soccer. Also on the same day, 2022-23 Upper Deck Black Diamond Hockey. Moving to the 25th, we have 2023 Leaf Hybrid Baseball, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet Obsidian Flames Build-A-Battle Stadium, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet Obsidian Flames Build-A-Battle Deck. Also on the 25th, 2023 Topps Garbage Pail Kids Chrome. Also 2023 Topps Stranger Things Season 4. 25th, staying on that, 2023 Wild Card Wild Chrome Draft Football. Also on the 25th, Yu-Gi-Oh! Speed Duel Streets of Battle City. And on the 28th, we have 2023 Topps Cosmic Chrome Baseball and Topps UEFA Club 2022-23 Competition Stadium Club Chrome Soccer. So that gets you all the way up to the 28th. A good double-digit in amount of products there. Choose your weapon, as I always say, and happy ripping.
Let's go round the hobbyverse and catch up on this week's hobby news.
Order in the court.
All right, most folks by now have heard that Panini has filed suit against Fanatics for antitrust violations. Well, Fanatics has fired back and is counter-suing them. It's very convoluted to a non-legal person. That's why on September 1st, my guest on Sports Card Nation will be the hobby lawyer, Paul Lesko, and he's going to make it a lot easier for us to understand and breaking it down in terms we can understand, and also give his opinion legally on what to expect and what he thinks of this suit and countersuit. So that's, shameless plug 9/1 on Sports Card Nation. That'll be Paul Lesko, and very intelligent, very enthusiastic, and going to break it down, like I said, for us. Will Elmore of Colorado during the pandemic said, man, a lot of these commons or not as popular cards or lesser valued cards, they just end up in a box somewhere and almost never to be seen again. And he had a better idea. And he said, you know what? I'm going to make some belts. And using a combination of cards and like milk carton plastic, he made these rugged belts. And you can custom order them if you have a favorite player or team or sort of an idea of players you want as part of a belt you would wear. Will Elmore is now doing that with cards and making belts. And I saw pictures. Very cool. I don't own one, but might have to see about a Jackie Robinson belt. But again, they use real cards, so maybe you can use some reprints to make a Jackie Robinson belt. But you search Will Elmore baseball card belts, you'll see what this gentleman's doing out of Colorado. All right, the highest bringing Michael Jordan Type 1 photo just completed at Leland's. It was a photo from his debut, his first game against the Supersonics. Has him sort of dribbling up the court with a defender draped by his side. That closed at a new record for Jordan Type 1s at $142,000. We've seen these Type 1 photos be really one of the latest things to really take off and become more desirable, more collected, bringing higher values on auction houses and auction sites. And not my thing. I mean, if I did them, it would be, Jackie Robinson photos, and those things bring some serious cachet. So they're kind of big. They take up a lot of space, and I think the biggest thing size wise that I'll have as part of my inventory would probably be exhibit cards. But again, these things are becoming very popular. So we need to talk about them. Another thing we need to talk about is a scammer out there. Be wary. A person posing as Orioles World Series winner Gary Renicky, former World Series winner Gary Renicky, and selling authentic, air quotes, Baltimore Orioles game-used equipment, not just his own, but even other players. I know he sold a bat that was allegedly game-used by Cal Ripken, but it wasn't. And matter of fact, he's usually not sending. So people will pay this gentleman money, thinking they're sending it to Gary Renicky. Another name comes up on the PayPal account, and people don't get their stuff. So authorities are involved, but be careful if someone poses as Gary Renicky and tries to sell you Orioles authentic game-used equipment. Most likely not going to be the case. You're not going to get your stuff, and you're going to be out your money, at least for the time being.
And now, our feature presentation.
Today's topic came from a Q&A episode about something I do in the hobby that gives me satisfaction on a personal level. Now, more than one thing, obviously, gives me satisfaction. The thing I'm going to talk about, giving racks to people, donating stuff to children's hospital. There's a lot of things, sharing information, doing the podcast gives me satisfaction. Adding a card to my PC gives me satisfaction. There's double-digit ways I get satisfaction in the hobby. But, the one I answered, I'm not even necessarily saying this is number one, but they said sort of on a deep personal level. Again, giving away stuff, donating to charity is probably first and foremost, But this on a sort of personal hobby level is what I answered that question with. And it's, taking a raw card, however I acquired it, whether it was pulling it out of a pack or buying it raw from either a collector or fellow dealer at a show, and then submitting it to grading and getting a high or decent grade on it. And I want to always say high grade, right? Because sometimes we'll send vintage cards with some more years and mileage on them and get a good mid-tier grade and be very ecstatic about that too. So it doesn't always have to be about 9s and 10s, although those are nice, but I wanted to cover more ground than that. And so that's a big thing for me. And I take a little satisfaction from it because there's a skill, like it or not, there's a skill involved in that. In other words, if you're buying a card from a dealer, whether you're a collector or a dealer, right, you ask if it's in person, you ask to see it. You take a look at it, and you know, in your own mind, you've determined if, number one, you're still interested in it, and maybe a price you're looking to pay for it, and hey, I can, this isn't graded, but I'm going to, if I get it, I'm going to in turn submit it for grading because I think it's a candidate, or I think if I get it for the price I'm hoping for, it'll be beneficiary to get it slabbed. And it is an art and a skill. And, not to pat myself on the back, I think I've, after you do this long enough, and I've done this almost 40 years, I think it is 40 years now, not grading for 40 years, but in the hobby for 40 years, you get to know the terrain, the landscape. You obviously have handled a lot of cards in your lifetime that long, and you get to know sort of how certain companies make great cards, and which cards are better candidates for different grading companies, right? You don't have to deal with just one. I deal with typically 2 to 3 in what I do, but some people are loyal to just one only. Nothing wrong with that either, right? To each our own. So, going to a show, and whether it's buying a raw card from someone that comes up to my table and says, "Hey, are you buying?" and you look through their case and you pull out a couple things, and graded cards too, but in this case we're talking about raw cards, and you buy a few raw cards, and then in turn, maybe get a better look at them when you get home. You sort of buy them maybe at a show with like, hey, I'm going to buy it right where worst case scenario, even if I don't submit it for grading, I can put it in my case raw and still do okay, right? So it's not always with the grading principle in mind, but maybe that's at the top of the list. And right, the satisfaction when you buy maybe a few cards off a collector, and then you in turn submit one or more for grading, and they do well, right? Because sort of makes your life a little bit easier. Let's be very transparent, right? Same thing with a dealer, right? Well, you're dealing with a dealer. He's got a lot of graded cards in this case, but he also has some raw cards, right? What's the first thing you probably think of, right? At least I do. And it doesn't mean I'm right, but the first thing I think of when I see a dealer who deals with a lot of graded cards, but also has raw ones, right? The first thing we think about is, the raw ones didn't make the cut for grading. So that's why he has the graded ones that made the cut, and now these raw ones are going to be kind of in rougher shape, or maybe even beat up, or have defects, especially if they're newer cards, or modern or ultra modern, right? And not always the case, folks. That's the one thing I want to say here. That is not always the case, because I can tell you I've bought from dealer acquaintances raw cards when they're heavy graded dealers, but maybe they just bought those, recently, those raw cards, and they just haven't got a chance to submit them, or just didn't do it. Maybe got a little lax, or just, dragging their feet a little bit. Believe me, I've bought plenty of a raw card from a dealer I would say is a heavy graded dealer, and in turn sent that raw card in and got a very high or good or satisfactory grade from it. So don't always discount it that, hey, this dealer has 75% graded cards in his cases, so the 25% of raw cards he or she has will not be grading candidates. I don't think, I'm not saying it's not, it's the first thing I think of too, but it's not always the case. Don't sort of write a dealer or cards off when you see 3-to-1 graded to raw ratio. Doesn't always work that way, even though it's kind of pops up in your mind. I'm guilty of it too, but go in open-minded if that's sort of your mindset. Because I can tell you, I've bought plenty of raw card in that situation that is now slabbed, and I'm very happy with how it turned out. So don't always just assume. I mean, we do that. I'm guilty of it sometimes, but try not to assume, because you can come out sort of ahead. And again, when we talk about, turning a raw card into a slab card, it doesn't always have to be financially motivated. I like to do that with Jackie Robinson cards that I have no intent to resell. Other cards that I have no intent to resell. I collect Hall of Fame graded rookies. That's my PC. I tend to buy them already graded, but I'm not going to lie. I've bought raw Hall of Fame rookie cards and graded them myself. And again, truthfully, it's cheaper to do it that way. That's the other thing I want to talk about with this topic. It's cheaper. If you're going to buy a card already graded, you're sort of paying for that. You're paying that price, right? You can buy a raw card, let's be honest, in most times, not every case, most cases cheaper than a graded version of that card. And, if you get a diamond in the rough, and you can, and then submit it for grading yourself, you have most likely paid a lesser price than buying the grade that you got. So it's a good way to save money. It's fun too, right? I think if you grade cards, some of the fun is looking at that card, kind of assessing it. We all do this, right? We say, I think that's going to get a 7. Oh, I think that has a chance at a 10. This is a vintage card. If this gets a 5 or 6, I'll be ecstatic because I paid only this much for it and I think it's got a shot, right? It's that anticipation, that lead up and build up. Then we submit the cards to our grading card company of choice and we await the grading card results. And we kind of measure it up to our predictions or what we thought it would pull. And in some of those cases, we've all been there, right? Sometimes it does even better than the grade we put. And other times, unfortunately, right, we say, oh, man, I think this will get a 7, and we get back a 5 or 6. And hopefully not worse, but probably sometimes lower. So, but that's the fun, right? Kind of seeing how our assessment skills, right? We all think we're armchair graders, and it's a good way to sort of test our mettle against the actual people who get paid to do that job. So that's fun too. I'm one of those guys that will look at the grades before I even get the cards back on the grading card website. Some people don't like to do that. I'm a bulk subber for SGC, and I will tell you 80% of the subs I get from other people, when the grades come in, I will ask those folks, hey, do you want to know how you did? And they're like, nope, John, I'll wait till the cards are back and I pick them up. I can't do that. I don't have the patience. Kudos to those folks that have that willpower and patience. As soon as I get a notification that grades have popped, I'm seeing what they were and how I did and comparing notes to what I thought they would get before I ever get them in hand. So I guess I don't like surprises as much as other people do. So that's me. But it's really fun. And again, I want to iterate as we kind of wrap this topic up is if you're not into grading cards, nothing wrong with that, right? Hobby your way. I've said this story. I'll do the Cliff Notes version here. When grading first hit the hobby scene, I thought it was a money grab. I told customers in my store that it's ridiculous. You're throwing your money out. You can give me your $20. I'll tell you what shape your card's in. I was anti-grading, but now it's a different story. And I think grading serves multiple levels, multiple purposes, besides the financial aspect, right? Authenticity, verifying that something is real, protection, right? Keeping that thing protection. A lot of these plastic cases have some UV protection, and so it makes your cards last longer. And I'm sure the value aspect probably is number one on most people's lists as well. We can't ignore that fact either. So changing a raw card into a slab card is some of the most fun I get to do in my personal hobby. Business-wise, on my business side as a dealer, and even in my personal collection, just in cards that I'm keeping. I don't care what the grade comes back as. I'm just keeping the cards, not for sale. So I wanted to kind of delve deep. Tips, again, don't write off a dealer even if you see heavy graded presents on their raw inventory. Make deals with people, right? Collector to collector, trade nights, buying cards, right? I acquire cards from collectors that come up to my table, from other dealers, and opening packs, right? Those are all those cards that are raw that I acquire that way are potential candidates for grading. And so don't close off any avenue. Look at your local marketplaces like Facebook Marketplace, even Macari. Sometimes you will find collections for sale on those sites, and there's some diamonds in the rough in many of those cases. And so it's a fun thing if that's the the lane you choose and the road you want to travel down. So, as always, not that I don't believe in experts, but I'm very experienced. Any questions, feel free to contact me or the show, and we'll help you out as best we can. Thanks for your time, and we'll see you soon. All right, thank you for listening to another episode of Hobby Quick Hits. Want to give out our social media, starting with our website, which is www.sportscardnationpodcast.com. Facebook, you can follow us at www.facebook.com/sportscardnationpodcast/ Twitter, we are at sportscardnat1, so it's sportscard NATI1. Instagram at sportscardnationpodcast, or you can email the show hobbyquickhits@gmail.com. Again, thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.